Do you want to beguile and restrain your opponents? Do you want to become the ultimate warrior of the Feywild? Do you want to cause chaos on the battlefield as you summon the greatest number of summons in the game? Then this is the build for you. Hey guys, I'm Warners, and if you didn't hear, this week is Monster Week. Monster Week is an annual community event created and organized by Ginny D and Pointy Hat to bring together TTRPG creators on YouTube, and this year the theme is Fey. So I decided to go ahead and make a Fey-themed character build video, but alongside that video, I also came out with the Feywild Handbook for free this week only on my Patreon. It has multiple subclasses, species options, magic items, spells, and a terrifying new monster, all encompassing different aspects of the Feywild and Fey creatures. So if you'd like to pick that up for free on my Patreon, just click the link down below. Not only that, but my fellow YouTuber friend DSR, he's going over the whole PDF this week and rating everything inside. So check out his videos as well down below. Also, every month on my Patreon, I come out with a 2024 compatible PDF document, usually a subclass, and just for $3, you get access to all of my PDFs. With that all out of the way though, let's go and get into the build video. So first of all, I kind of wanted to explain my goals with this build. So yes, I'm going to be using a Ranger, and I'm going to be using the Fey Wanderer subclass. The Fey Wanderer is pretty good at using the Charmed and Frightened conditions, especially if creatures are being Charmed and Frightened often. The Ranger can utilize some of its higher level abilities easier. So I wanted to really lean into that. And then I also wanted to lean into some spells that Rangers tend to not use very much. At least I don't hear people talking about using them in build videos. And I'm going to kind of dissect them a bit, see how much benefit they can really give this sort of build, and how fear can really help keep these spells going. Also, the Fey Wanderer has a very, very good ability at level 11, which some of you might already know what I'm talking about. And I wanted to see how many summons I could get on the battlefield in a reasonable manner, and how much more damage you could theoretically do in a 4-round combat with this insane amount of summons that you can summon. With that all being said, for the species option, I went ahead and decided to look at monsters of the multiverse, and I specifically was looking for not only species options that are on theme, but that could really benefit this build. And there are some options in that book that let you play actual Fey creatures, and I was really tempted by a lot of those, but I went ahead and went with the Eladrin, which, if you're unfamiliar with, they are an elf, but they're a specific kind of elf that is tied more to the Fey than the others. In Monsters of the Multiverse, they're still technically the species type of humanoid, but they're also in the monster manual as Fey. They have the typical stuff that elves have. They have dark vision out to 60 feet. They have keen senses. They have Fey ancestry. They have the normal 30 walking speed, but also they have a unique trance ability that works the same as the other elves' trance. And I'll go ahead and read it. It says the normal line that trance says, and then it says, whenever you finish this trance, you can change your season and you can gain 2 proficiencies that you don't have, each one with a weapon or a tool of your choice selected from the player's handbook. You mystically acquire these proficiencies by drawing them from shared elven memory, and you retain them until you finish your next long rest. So this is a 5e species option, and typically you don't get weapon proficiencies through species options now. So I decided to just go with the extra tool proficiencies. So I went ahead and added the herbalism kit and smithing tools, just because those are nice tools to have, especially if you're in a campaign where your DM lets you craft things. Making potions of healing and weapons and armor should be lots of fun. But then Eladrin also get this very fun ability called Fey Step. Basically, proficiency bonus times per day. You can bonus action Misty Step, but it's technically not Misty Step, so it doesn't count as a spell. So it can't be counterspelled, doesn't require any spell slots or anything, but you get to teleport 30 feet. And then based on the season you choose for your Eladrin character, it has a different ability. And like I already said, with the trance ability, you can switch out your season at the end of a long rest. So that's super versatile, and you have access to all 4 seasons. It's not something you can just decide once, which is great. For this build though, we're mostly going to be utilizing the winter season, and I'll go ahead and read the benefit it gives you. It says, when you use your Fey step, one creature of your choice that is within 5 feet of you before you teleport must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. So yeah, you teleport 30 feet as a bonus action, and you cause a target to make a fear saving throw. And it only lasts till the end of your next turn, but for what we're building, that is just fine. Another one you could use that would work really well with this build, but for different reasons, is the autumn option. It allows you to do the exact same thing, but the range of the effect is creatures within 10 feet of you, and it is 2 creatures instead of 1. And if they fail their wisdom save, instead of being feared, they gain the charmed condition, and it lasts for a minute, and it can only be broken if you or your allies do damage to them. So that's actually a pretty long charm effect. And I feel like if you're in a campaign that does a lot of roleplay, this one might be a better option, because this is a way to charm creatures without casting a spell, and it just lasts for a minute. And so that could be used out of combat pretty regularly and would be a really good option. And even though we're not going to use these in this build, I'll mention them. Spring lets you be able to teleport an ally instead of yourself, and summer makes it so you can deal some fire damage to a creature after you teleport. So those are decent options, but not really what we're into for this build. And then for our background, this background option isn't really much of a roleplay option, but you could definitely make this character have this background in your story. But I went ahead and went with Genie Touched. Genie Touch gives you a few things. You gain proficiency in the persuasion skill. That's pretty nice. Good skill to have, and it works really well for this character build. You also gain proficiency in Glassblower's tools. Not really super necessary, but not too bad to have. And then you also gain access to the Magic Initiate Wizard origin feat. This feat also isn't super important to the build, but it just kind of ups our defenses a bit, because we're going to be taking the shield spell. And for cantrips, here at level 1, we're going to be taking Booming Blade and Blade Ward. And then as soon as you get extra attack, we're going to switch out Booming Blade to whatever cantrip you would like from the wizard. Minor Illusion, Dancing Lights, even the Friends cantrip, I feel like are all decent options. And then the spellcasting ability we're picking for this is obviously Wisdom, since we're going into Ranger mostly. And then our ability score increase options for this are Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. So I went ahead and went with a +2 in Dexterity and a +1 in Wisdom. So our ability score spread at level 1 is an 8 in Strength, 15 with a +2 in Dexterity, making it a 17, 12 Constitution, which is kind of low for a melee build that we're going to be doing, but that's part of the reason why we went with the shield spell. An 8 in Intelligence, a 15 in Wisdom with the +1 making it a 16, and then we have a 13 Charisma. This works out well because we're going to be multi-classing into a second class later in the build that requires a 13 in Charisma, and then also it's not bad to have a higher Charisma for the Fey Wanderer that we're eventually going into, because it has some nice charisma based benefits. And then for starting equipment, you can just go with the Ranger starting equipment option. It gives us literally everything we would want. We get studded leather, we get a scimitar, a short sword, and a longbow, druidic focus, 20 arrows and a quiver, and an explorer's pack. So literally everything we need for this build. And then I would just take the 50 gold from the background personally. All right, so for core Ranger traits here at level 1, I decided to go with Stealth, Survival, and Insight. These are just super solid skills to have on a Ranger, so it just only felt natural. We also gain spell casting. We get Favored Enemy. Most of you guys know about this. Basically, we get to cast Hunter's Mark for free a few times per day. Definitely not a bad thing to have, especially here at early levels. Hunter's Mark is actually very good at low level. Then we're going to go with the classic weapon mastery combo of a scimitar and a short sword. We get Nick and Vex. Nick allows it so that even here at level 1, we can make 2 weapon attacks with the light weapon property. property, and we still have our bonus action free for other things like Hunter's Mark. And then we also get the short sword for Vex, which if you hit with the Vex weapon, your next attack roll will be made at advantage. So super nice to have. Definitely ups our damage, especially here at low levels. We gain Deft Explorer, and we get 2 languages, as well as expertise and a skill we're proficient in. I'm probably gonna go with Stealth with this one, but you could also go with Perception. I actually also gained Arcana proficiency from my Ginny background. You have a lot of choices here, but yeah, I went with Stealth. For fighting style, we went with the classic 2-weapon fighting. This means we can add our ability modifier to our offhand attack. Ups our damage pretty well. Great pickup. And so that's level 2. And then level 3, we finally get our Ranger subclass. We are going with the Fey Wanderer. And with the Fey Wanderer here at level 3, we gain Dreadful Strikes. You can augment your weapon strikes with Mind Scarring Magic drawn from the Murky Hallows of the Feywild. When you hit a creature with a weapon, you can deal an extra 1d4 psychic damage to the target, which can take this extra damage only once per turn. The extra damage increases to 1d6 when you reach Ranger level 11. This is interesting because if you hit different targets with every one of your attacks, this makes it so that each one can take 1d4. But if you hit the same target twice, they can only take that damage once, which is very against the playstyle that Hunter's Mark kind of trains you to use. So very odd design here, but it's better than just getting 1d4 always, I guess. And then you get the Fey Wanderer spells. Here at level 3, you gain Charm Person. Level 5, you get Misty Step. Level 9, you get the amazing Summon Fey. Level 13, you get Dimension Door. And level 17, you get Mislead. So we get Charm Person for free this level. That's kind of nice. And then whenever you make a Charisma check, you gain a bonus to the check equal to your Wisdom modifier. And that's really nice here on this Ranger, especially with the charisma things that we've already decided to be proficient in. And then we gain proficiency in one of these 3 skills. And like I said, we're already proficient in Persuasion, so we're going to go ahead and add Deception. If you want to be a little more whimsical, you could add Performance. But yeah, there you go. That's level 3. And then actually, here at level 4, we're going to take the Shadow Touched feat. You could totally go with another feat if you're not really into this. I picked Shadow Touch for a very specific reason. First of all, you do gain access to the invisibility spell, which is often considered an aspect of a lot of Fey creatures, but also I decided to go for the Wrathful Smite spell. This allows you to deal an extra 1d6 necrotic damage from a melee attack, and then the creature makes a saving throw. If they fail the saving throw, they're frightened for 1 minute, but they get to make a save again at the end of each of their turns. It actually works pretty well with this build, and you'll see why pretty soon. Then at level 5, we get extra attack, which is great. So now we're making 3 attacks. And then level 6, we get roving. Our speed increases by 10 feet while we aren't wearing heavy armor. And we also gain a climb speed and a swim speed. Monks and barbarians also get a similar ability where they get to add 10 feet to their movement, but they do not gain a climb speed and a swim speed. So that's kind of unique to the Ranger. So yeah. And now that we're done going over level 1 to 6, I'm going to go over the level 6 damage per round, and I'm going to talk about 3 different playstyles you could utilize with this build at this level. By the way, I use this website called DPR Calc. It's great for calculating damage per round. I will have the links in the description for each level that I go over, and this also links to the character sheet. So if you want to look at the character sheet on D&D Beyond, you can see each character sheet at each level range. So there you go. So the first feat I got upped my wisdom, but it did not up my dexterity to 18 like I could have done. So that definitely lowers our damage slightly. But if we did the typical bonus action Hunter's Mark our target, do our 3 attacks, and leave our bonus action open to move Hunter's Mark, then versus AC of 16, we would be doing an average of 21.86 DPR, which is pretty good for level 6. But I wanted to give you a potential alternative playstyle that might be kind of fun to consider. So definitely make sure to get the Ensnaring Strike spell at level 1. It's a very good spell, and I think it's very underrated, especially in this tier here at level 6. I would only use it against creatures that you feel don't have a high strength score though. So go for your spellcasters or, your smaller creatures. If something is large size or bigger, it probably has a pretty high strength score. And actually, Ensnaring Strike gives larger creatures advantage on their saving throw against it. So that's kind of unfortunate. But if you're fighting medium or small creatures, Ensnaring Strike is really nice. And it's more likely to happen here at lower levels. Another alternative would be to use your action to cast Entangle. Entangle is a full action though, so you would be using your first round and not really dealing any damage. So it just kind of depends on what your priority is. But what's nice about Entangle is it's a pretty big AoE and it has the chance to restrain multiple targets. It also does not give advantage to large sized targets. Also, after casting Entangle, you could always bonus action Fey Step, potentially fearing a target and giving them disadvantage on their ability check to escape the entangle. But let's say first round of combat, you use Ensnaring Strike and you successfully restrain a creature. And then the following rounds, you're able to use your bonus action to cast Wrathful Smite. About half the time, the creature will stay restrained. And if you can get the creature to be restrained and frightened at the same time, one thing that is often overlooked, I think, about the frightened condition is the frightened condition makes it so all your ability checks are at disadvantage. And Ensnaring Strike, to escape it, the target or creature within reach of it has to take an action to make a strength athletics check against your spell save DC. So yeah, basically if you can lock them down, restrain them, and fear them, it's going to be very hard for them to get out of your Ensnaring Strike. And the restrain condition is also very underrated in my opinion. Not only does it give advantage on all attack rolls against them, they make all of their attack rolls at disadvantage. And unlike prone, even if you're ranged, the attack rolls are at advantage. And if we say that this works about half the time, casting Ensnaring Strike at the highest level, which at this level it's level 2, and Wrathful Smite at level 1, we're looking at 20 DPR. So definitely lower than if we're using Hunter's Mark, but you're potentially adding a lot more damage by controlling the enemy and giving your allies advantage on their attacks. So yeah, pretty cool. And now let's go over levels 7 to 9. So level 7, we get this great new ability called Beguiling Twist. This will synergize very well with Wrathful Smite. The magic of the Feywild guards your mind. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the Charmed or Frightened condition. Pretty nice little defensive option there. And then in addition, whenever you or a creature you can see within 120 feet of you succeeds on a saving throw to avoid or end the Charmed or Frightened condition, you can take a reaction to force a different creature you can see within 120 feet of yourself to make a Wisdom save against your spell save DC. On a failed save, the target is charmed or frightened, your choice, for 1 minute. And it basically has the same effect as Wrathful Smite, where they can make saves at the end of each of their turns. But this is for free. You get to choose between charmed and frightened, and you can be doing this every turn that a creature succeeds on their save against charmed or frightened. And then if you decide to use a spell like Entangle, and you have multiple creatures wrapped up in it, and then let's say you Wrathful Smite one of those targets and they become feared, but then at the end of their turn they make their save, you can use your reaction and target a different creature in the entangle, and then you can make them frightened, and you can just keep doing this all the time. Also, depending on how long the combat goes, you could keep Wrathful Smiting different targets so that creatures are making this save all the time, and it just kind of keeps building on itself. And then if you're in a party with other people charming or frightening creatures, then this just ends up being super useful, and you're going to be able to utilize this reaction quite often. And then here at level 8, we get another feat, and I decided to go with Fairy Trickster, which is very fitting for this build. I'll go ahead and read it though. So you increase your dexterity and charisma score by 1. We went ahead and increased our dexterity. When you take the disengage action on your turn, difficult terrain doesn't cost you extra movement for the rest of that turn. Not going to happen very often for us, but I guess that's fine to have. But then we get Flustering Strike. When we hit a creature with an attack roll, we can attempt to fluster the target. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on saving throws until the end of our next turn. And we're already causing a bunch of saving throws. So if we can get Flustering Strike and Fear on a target, then they're making disadvantage on all their saving throws, at least for 1 round. And they have disadvantage on all their ability checks. So it's kind of double locking them down. This makes for a very powerful controlling melee ranger, and it's a lot of fun. And then level 9, we get 2 more expertises. expertise? How do you say multiple expertise? Anyway, I decided to go with perception and deception. Make it so that we can see real good and we can lie real good. Just feel like that's a nice expertise to have. And here at level 9, we also gain access to the Summon Fey spell. And so let's go over the DPR with that in mind. Before we go over the DPR, I'm gonna go over the Summon Fey spell, just so that we're very familiar with it and we can understand what's happening. It's a 3rd level spell, action casting time, 90-foot range, 1 hour concentration, typically. It does require a material component, a gilded flower worth 300 gold, but that's not too crazy to find at level 9. And you get to summon one of these Fey spirits. Once you cast it, it requires no action economy. You just use verbal commands to make it do what you want it to do. It has an AC of 12 plus the spell's level, which here at 3rd level spells, it's 15 AC. And it's 30 hit points plus 10 for each spell slot level above 3. So here at a level 3 spell, it's just the base 30 hit points. It has a 30-foot movement and 30-foot fly speed. It's immune to charmed, has dark vision, and then it has multi-attack, but not quite yet. It's not high enough level to actually utilize the multi-attack because the spirit makes a number of Fey blade attacks equal to half this spell's level. And since it's level 3, half this spell's level rounded down is going to be just 1 attack. And the Fey blade attack is a melee attack roll, and it's equal to our spell attack modifier, reach of 5 feet, and it does 2d6 plus 3 plus the spell's level force damage. So 2d6 plus 6. That's pretty nice. And then it also gets Fey Step. The spirit magically teleports up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. And then one of the following effects occurs based on the spirit's chosen mood. And then this also shows us the 3 different options we can choose from. And this is the unique bonus action teleport ability that each one has. So we have Fuming. The spirit has advantage on the next attack roll it makes before the end of this turn. Pretty good option, just ups your damage, especially if they're not restrained at the moment. It's a bit harder for them to get advantage. We get Mirthful. This is the one we're going to be using most of the time. One creature makes a wisdom save and DC equals your spell save DC. The creature has to be a creature within 10 feet of the Fey, and if they fail, they are charmed by the Fey spirit for 1 minute or until the target takes any damage. So again, they can do this every single turn, so it's probably only going to last until the next round. But now we have another way that creatures are making saving throws against the charmed or frightened condition. And so this is another way we can trigger our reaction ability to charm or frighten a creature. So yeah. And then we have the Trixie option. The spirit fills a 10-foot cube within 5 feet of it with magical darkness, which lasts until the end of its next turn. A lot of DMs treat this just like the darkness spell. Technically, it's just darkness that is magical. It's not a separate category called magical darkness. So rules as written, dark vision can see through this, but a lot of DMs either don't rule it that way or they don't know the rules as written. So depending on your DM, you might be able to do some sort of blind fighting build with this, but I'm going to be assuming that when we cast this that we're using the Mirthful option. But yeah, that's Summon Fey. And already at this level in a 4-round combat, using Summon Fey in the first round, as long as it survives the whole 4-round combat, it does up our DPR. It is now the highest damage option at this level. If we just use Hunter's Mark, it's around 25.45 DPR. If we use our Ensnaring Strike Wrathful Smite thing, where we take the highest level spell and cast Ensnaring Strike and then use Wrathful Smite on later rounds, we're actually looking at 27.6 DPR. So that's actually higher than Hunter's Mark, which is pretty cool. It's a little less reliable than Hunter's Mark though, and it requires a lot of failed saves. But we also do have the Fluttering Strike ability now, so that could make it even better potentially. Using our full action on round 1 to cast Summon Fey and then just attacking with the Fey every round makes our DPR 28.21. So yeah, that's pretty good as long as it stays up. And now let's do level 10 to 13. So here at level 10, we gain Tireless, which is a pretty cool ability that Rangers get now. Just wisdom mod times per day. You can just straight up give yourself 1d8 plus your wisdom mod in temporary hit points as a magic action. So yeah, this is kind of a no-brainer. Just like when combat ends, just use this on yourself and then you have some temp HP be for whenever the next time you have combat. Why not? And then when you finish a short rest, if you have any levels of exhaustion, one level goes away, and that's unlimited. So let's say you have multiple levels of exhaustion. You could potentially, depending on how many short rests your DM lets you have, you could get rid of most or even all of your levels of exhaustion pretty easily. And then at level 11, we get the ability that everyone waits for when they pick Fey Wanderer. We get the amazing subclass ability, Fey Reinforcements. So first of all, you can cast Summon Fey without a material component, and that's just all the time now. Anytime you cast Summon Fey, you don't need the material component anymore. You can also cast it once without a spell slot. That's pretty nice. And you regain the ability to cast it in this way when you finish a long rest. So you get a free casting. And yeah, why not? Especially on a half caster. But then this is the juicy thing that we get. Whenever you start casting the spell, you can modify it so that it doesn't require concentration. If you do so, the spell's duration becomes 1 minute for that casting. So whenever you cast Summon Fey, it doesn't require concentration if you choose to modify it this way, but it only lasts a minute now. And so that means we can cast a bunch of these. And we could potentially have as many as we have spell slots for, and that can last a minute. So yeah, I decided I wanted to take this to another level. And so as you might have already seen on the screen, for level 12 and 13, we're taking a little multi-class dip, and we're going into sorcerer. And we're going to take 2 levels into sorcerer. For the first level, we gain spell casting and innate sorcery. I'm probably not going to be utilizing these abilities too often because our charisma is very low. So we're not going to be able to take advantage of these very well. But at level 2, we gain Font of Magic, and this gives us sorcery points. And if you guys didn't know or forgot, sorcery points in the 2024 rules work in a really cool way where we can switch out our spell slots for sorcery points anytime we want for no action economy cost. The only limit is we can only have up to our maximum amount of sorcery points at one time. And what I mean by that is you're level 2 sorcerer, we only have a maximum of 2 sorcery points. We can never have more than 2 sorcery points at a time. But since we can take our spell slots and convert them to sorcery points, it kind of doesn't really matter, and it just happens for free. So the meta magic options we're going with is quicken spell and extended spell. Quicken spell is what we're going to be utilizing most of the time, and it costs 2 sorcery points. We can use it once with the sorcery points we have, and then we have to use either 2 first level slots or 1 second level slot to utilize it again. And then the reason I went with extended spell, when you cast a spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can spend 1 sorcery point to double its duration to a maximum of 24 hours. So let's say you want to cast Summon Fey with a spell slot. You could have it last 2 hours instead of the normal 1 hour if you're concentrating on it. And so that could be pretty useful depending on like a dungeon you're in or whatever. And then if the affected spell requires concentration, which if you cast it that way it would, then you have advantage on any saving throw you make to maintain that concentration. So that's pretty nice. And then for spells, literally pick whatever you want. Go for spells that it doesn't matter what your spellcasting stat is. There's a lot of really good options too. Absorb elements is a great pickup. Comprehend languages, detect magic, jump, magic missile if you want, disguise self. There's a lot of really good options. And let's go ahead and go over the DPR. So when you do a straight class Fey Wanderer, one of the unfortunate things about the Fey Reinforcements ability is that Summon Fey always takes an action to cast. And so unless you're in a really long combat, it kind of feels bad to use your action to keep casting Summon Fey when your whole class is built around using the attack action. So I decided to multi-class into sorcerer to gain access to quicken spell. So if you're really in a fight where you're okay with dumping most of your resources into it, and honestly, you could afford to do that because in earlier fights, you could just do Hunter's Mark with your free castings with favorite enemy. And then let's say you're in the big boss battle where things are going down and you're like, okay, time to use my spell slots. For this DPR calculation, I assumed that you haven't cast Summon Fey at all yet. It would be pretty smart though to cast Summon Fey and maybe even use extended spell to make it last a bit longer. But that's not what I assumed for this DPR. So round 1, you use your 2 sorcery points and then you cast your highest level Summon Fey. Here at level 13, you have 2 4th level slots and 3 3rd level slots. Plus you have that free slot that you get with Fey Reinforcements, which is a 3rd level slot. So you quicken spell 4th level Summon Fey. This Summon Fey finally gets 2 attacks. So then you use your your action and you attack with your short sword and scimitar with dreadful strikes. And then your Fey attacks and they bonus action try to charm someone. If they succeed, you can reaction fear them. And that first round of combat, you're doing 34.93 DPR with you and your Summon Fey combined. Round 2 comes along, sacrifice 2 first level spells or a second level spell to gain back 2 sorcery points, then quicken spell Summon Fey again at 4th level. And now you got 2 Summon Feys attacking at 4th level. They're both attacking twice for 4 attacks plus your 3 attacks, and you're doing 49.63 DPR. Then you sacrifice 2 more spell slots or a second level spell again on round 3 and quicken spell Summon Fey again, this time at 3rd level or using your free slot, probably using your free slot for that. And now you're making 6 Summon Fey attacks and you have 3 Fey on the board with your action free to do your normal attack. You're looking at 63.33 DPR. And then finally, during round 4, if the battle seems worth it still, go ahead and quicken spell yet again using another one of your 3rd level slots. And now you have 4 Summon Fey on the battlefield, 2 making 2 attack, 2 making 1 attack each. And then you're using your attack action for a total of 77 DPR in round 4 for an average of 56.22 DPR, which isn't super high for this level, but you have 4 Fey on the battlefield that each has the ability to charm a creature, more targets on the battlefield, almost guarantees that you're going to be able to use your reaction to frighten someone, and you're technically not even concentrating on a spell. So if you decided to concentrate on a spell prior to combat starting, then you have whatever effects that spell has. This damage did not include Hunter's Mark, so you could have been concentrating on Hunter's Mark and done even more damage. Now we're going to go a little bit more into the Ranger. You're at level 12 Ranger. We're going to go ahead and get our dex to 20. Yeah, that's level 12. And then level 13, we gain Relentless Hunter. Taking damage can't break your concentration on Hunter's Mark. This is fine. And honestly, if you're actually utilizing this build where you quicken spell Summon Fey and you don't concentrate on Summon Fey, then this is a nice little pickup. But yeah, not super great for this build necessarily. But after that, we go ahead and go back into Sorcerer. And I decided at level 3 for our Sorcerer subclass, I just decided to go into Spellfire Sorcery. This isn't for any particular reason other than mechanically it's probably the best one to go with for this dip. You could go Wild Magic, and Wild Magic is probably more fitting thematically. So it might be a good idea to go Wild Magic because I feel like that's the most Fey-like sorcerer in the official rules. But if you go for Spellfire Sorcery, you gain this awesome ability. It's honestly not amazing, but it's pretty good for what we're doing. It's called Spellfire Burst. When you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of a magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one of the following magical effects of your choice. You can do so only once per turn. Bolstering Flames. You or one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma modifier. Unfortunately, since our charisma modifier isn't very high, this wouldn't be super high for us. It would be about 4.5 temporary hit points on average, but we also can do 1d4 fire or radiant damage, our choice. And if we're using that quicken spell every time, this just gives us an average of 2.5 extra damage per round that we use quicken spell. So why not, you know? We also get Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, and Scorching Ray. Lesser Restoration and Cure Wounds are pretty nice pickups. Cure Wounds is available on the Ranger spell list. I'm pretty sure Lesser Restoration is as well, but it's nice to free up the Ranger spell list a little bit so you can pick more Ranger spells. We also gain access to 2nd level sorcerer spells. Death Armor is a good pickup. That's a new spell if you guys didn't know. If creatures hit you, they take 2d4 necrotic damage, and you have advantage on death saving throws. Enhanced Ability is a great pickup. Enlarge Reduce, that could be good if you're just using it on allies. Invisibility would be good, but since you took Shadow Touched, you already have invisibility. You could use Levitate on yourself. Mirror Image is a great spell to have. See Invisibility. So yeah, there's some good pickups you can pick up even though your charisma is low. And then here at level 4, we're going to go ahead and go with Warcaster. This brings our wisdom score score to 18, which is nice because that affects the Summon Fey's attack rolls. And Warcaster is just a nice spell to have, especially if we decide to concentrate on Summon Fey. We also don't have to rely on extended spell to keep our concentration up as much. And since we're 4 levels in Sorcerer, we now can do 2 quicken spells without having to go into our spell slots. Reminder, at this level 2, because we have 4 levels of a full caster, we have a few more spell slots than what is typically available for a ranger at level 17. We have a 6th level spell, which this will make it so that if we cast Summon Fey with this spell slot, this Summon Fey will have 3 attacks. We have 2 5th level spells, 3 4th, 3 3rd, 3 2nd, and 4 1st. So pretty good amount of spells. So essentially here at level 17, the scenario that I am building is very similar to the previous level 13 one, but now we have higher level spell slots and we have even more sorcery points. So this becomes a little less ridiculous and a little more possible to utilize effectively. We're doing the exact same thing as last time, but the round 1 Summon Fey that we summon is a level 6 Summon Fey. Round 2 and round 3 are 5th level Summon Feys, and round 4 is a 4th level Summon Fey. So round 1 you do 56.1 DPR, round 2 you do 74.8, round 3 you do 93.5, and by round 4 you're doing 111 DPR. Pretty nice. That makes the average DPR here at level 17 83.85. I'm going to go ahead and end this build here at level 17, but you have 3 more levels to go into, and if you decide to go into a full caster, by level 20 you would gain a 7th level spell slot, so you could have 2 Summon Feys that are making 3 attacks each. So that's pretty cool. I hope you guys liked the build. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, don't forget to check out my free Feywild handbook, and don't forget my fellow YouTuber friend Bruce from DSR is going over my Feywild handbook, so check out his videos going over that. Also, please try your best to support the other creators that have been making videos for Monster Week. And thank you so much Ginny D and Pointy Hat for hosting this, and all the other bigger YouTubers that have joined in as well. It means a lot to us smaller YouTubers to get some recognition and get some help from people that have paved the way for us. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time. Peace. Thank you so much Alex S, Brandon M, Brian, Cormac F, DSR, Stony H, Matt T, Daniel S, Troy B, Suva Reston, Kiba, The Mixed Fist, Robert T, Lapaland Enjoyer, Gavin F, D, Joseph W, John T, DD, Damcoles, Ross L, No Description, and a special thank you to Tyler S at Champion Tier.